But let's start with you, all right? Today's marketer. Today's marketer is overwhelmed. We're expected to do more, enabled by technology. We're hampered by technology. How many of you guys want to throw your computer across the room every once in a while because the UI hasn't changed in like 14 years since you started using it? We're expected to be content superstars. I will be a content superstar if I get to look like Gal Gadot. Just saying. We're spoiled for choice. There are so many different opportunities for us when it comes to resources and technology. What people have been talking about today about leveraging that hive knowledge, being able to find different components and expand what we do, find things that we love to do. But we're caught between automation and the human touch. How do we use AI? Where do we draw the line in automation? Where is it that as marketers and content people, we need to keep our hands in the mix and not let technology take us over? We're frazzled, we're frustrated, we're confused. We need that 5 a.m. run. And unlike Robert, I'm out there running. Not at 5 a.m. anymore, I used to. Now it's more like 6:30. I've gotten a little lazy in my older age. We're faced with a technology dilemma. How many of you guys are familiar with the MarTech stack? Right? Last year, Scott put us over the edge with 5,000 logos. I didn't stop and count them, but I trust him. There's actually 3,500 unique logos on this, on last year's design. His conference is coming up in a few weeks, and any bets as to whether or not it's going to be more or less? When I talked to Scott, actually, before he released the 2017, it was the fall of 2016, he said, you know what, I think I'm actually going to streamline it this year because his wife has stopped talking to him because it takes him so long to do this, and he actually does this himself. He goes, I think I'm going to go fewer. I'm going to really look and consolidate and see really the players out there, and then he releases it with 5,000 logos. He's a liar. Brilliant, but he's a liar. But what this shows us is that there is so much out there. We are inundated with technology. With every turn, we look at things and go, oh, that would be great. I wish I had that. Not knowing whether or not we already have that in our stack. And then some of you might look at that, that 5,000 logos and say, well, I work with content. That doesn't apply to me, right? Only that little small piece, well, not so small, that second orange column, where it's content and experience management. Yes, I agree, that applies to me, absolutely. Well, no, my friends, it is so much more than that. For sure, content and experience management, absolutely that applies to us. But you know what? So does programmatic advertising. You know what? So does mobile content. And search and paid social, all very dependent on content. And then we move over to retail and commerce, right? SEO and analytics. This is all stuff that affects us every day. So when we get down to it, really, there's only a very small portion of these 5,000 logos that don't impact us as people who are interacting with content, people who are responsible for content, that content that is delivering the experiences that our customers and our contacts want to have. As marketers, customer experience, we're all talking about it. 98% of organizations have it as a priority for them, for their success, objectives, goals. Everybody's talking about it. Doesn't matter the industry, doesn't matter where you're located in the world, we're all talking about customer experience. And that customer experience relies very much on content. So as marketers and content teams, our expanded realm is getting bigger and bigger by the day. We're expected to know things about context, biometrics, language, personalization. How many of you guys wish you had a penny for every time somebody said, we need to personalize that, right? How many of you would like to see personalization word wrapped or kicked completely out of our language, and we only talked about contextualization and relevance? That's a whole other presentation. I'll do that next year. We talk about engagement. Everybody wants to engage with us. Oh my God, if we actually engaged with every product and service and company, we would be exhausted. We get hit with thousands and thousands of impressions every day. And that's what companies are looking for. They're looking for that engagement. They want a reaction to that impression. So we have to deal with social. We have to deal with marketing automation, with campaigns, virtual reality. How many of you, put your hands up if you are comfortable with artificial intelligence and how you can use it as marketers and content people? Anybody? Nobody. All right, everybody's honest. It is freaking us out. That's one of the strengths as an analyst and as a consultant. I get the privilege of going to a lot of conferences, and I am always in on at least a couple of AI sessions because I want to hear finally somebody who's actually doing it. Not the vendors, and this isn't a diss to any vendor in the room. It's not a diss to any agency who has figured it out, but an actual company who has figured out the balance, that technology and human touch balance. Cognitive, again, machine learning, language processing. And then we move into the business processing. BPM, I have a background, full disclosure. I used to be an SAP consultant, so I can talk acronyms and Dolphin all day long. Happy to do it with anybody. But we forget about the BPM, the unsexy stuff, right? But this is the stuff that keeps our business going. We need process. Content, we're all familiar with all of these, right? And now we're getting into predictive content and making sure that things are following through our customers through each stage and through omni-channel and multi-channel and cross-channel. And then commerce, of course. Commerce is making a play for the glass. So as content people, we need to understand it. Even if we're not a commerce site, we need to understand how it interacts. And then, of course, we want to pull that all together with our data sources. So it ends up looking something like this. But do we have the strategy to support it? How many of us have stopped and take the time to look at the content technology that we have and make sure that we have a strategy behind it so we know how to use it, so that we're moving forward, so that we're not replacing technology when we don't need to? How many of you guys have lived through a replacement of a major piece of content technology like a WCM because you've got a new CMO or a new CIO, or because it's so off the upgrade path, your code is spaghetti, and you have to move on to something else? How many of you guys have suffered through that selection, right? If we have a strategy behind our content and how it's going to interact not only with us, but with other technologies, it will help keep our technology living longer. So a tenet is a principle or belief that a group holds true. So believe it or not, I was listening to the radio, actually, on going to the airport last week, and there is a whole new upswing in people trying to push the thought that the world is flat again. Have you guys heard this? Isn't that the most bizarre thing? You forget all the facts, all the pictures, everything that, people have gone around the world. And anyways, we digress. So content technology strategy tenet number 1. We need to understand our content stack. I had a boss who used to say that in meetings with clients, which wasn't always a compliment, that I spoke Dolphin. He meant it that I have a brain that talks business, but I also have a brain that understands technology. Anybody who has ever had to inflict or be inflicted with SAP, I actually used to code it, you will love HTML for the rest of your life. ABAP is not your friend. But we need to, even as non-technologists, as marketers who never want to get any closer to a piece of technology than the keyboard in front of them to enter in content, we still need to understand the technology. We need to understand what makes up our business and how we're delivering the experiences and the content to our customers. And if we don't understand it, then we're not able to make strategic decisions. So we need to understand which part of our content stack are the core pieces. What are the parents? What are those essence that if, your CEO or your CTO came to you tomorrow and said, listen, we need to cut back on our technology. We've had this wicked virus and we've been hacked and, they're saying we need to get rid of 60% of all of our content technology. What are the pieces? What's that 40% you would keep? What are the ones that you most rely on? That, generally that 80-20 rule of thumb, that you could do 80% of your job with that 20% of technology. What would it be? Understand that. Understand what it's capable of, and make sure you keep care of it. Tenet number 2, get senior leadership buy-in. We are actually in one of the best spots as marketers and content teams for this because experience is so important. And how do we deliver those experience? Content. So we are in a really good position to argue our case, to have good technology, to have training, to understand it, to keep it up, to be able to work with others outside of even our organization to make sure we're understanding and using that technology. But we need to make sure that the senior leadership team, not just the CMO or CIO or CTO, But the CAO and the CEO and all of the other senior leaders understand the impact of this technology and what it has on the company and how it is helping the overall organization succeed. Tenet number 3, team makes all of the difference. You could have mediocre technology, sort of something that doesn't hit a wave or a quadrant, isn't up and to the right. But if you have a really great team, and when I talk team, I'm talking marketing and content and IT and BI, administrators, people who are working together to make that content technology sing, you're going to kick butt. It makes all of the difference, but you need to make sure that the skill sets are there, not just how to write content, not just how to use the technology, but how to support it, how it can be integrated with other parts of the business, how it's going to use and leverage data to make your lives easier as content providers to reach your customers. Tenet number 4, make sure that those teams are partners. So now that you know the skill sets are needed, work together. How many here, so content people, not IT yet, content people, how many of you guys know exactly who to call on your IT team to help you with your CMS or tweak a marketing automation or anything from a technology perspective? First name basis, got the bat phone. All right, and of those you guys who have your arms up, how many of you proactively meet with your IT team to talk about things that could be coming up, things that you're thinking about, things that, I wonder if I can do this with my technology proactively, so once a month, once every 2 weeks? Brilliant, you guys all deserve a raise. Tell your bosses I said so. It's really important. You need to make friends with other parts of the business. Nothing makes me more crazy than when Robert and I go into different businesses and, they like to give you a tour of their office and, look at how awesome it is. And they've got marketing, they've got email marketing, and then they've got direct marketing, and then they've got event marketing, blah. But where you've got marketing and communications and stuff on, on this corner on floor 4, and you've got IT in the basement. Because you know what? They're not talking to each other. You need to work together. This is a group effort. And the last one is have a roadmap for adoption. Features, functionality, what the stack has to offer. As marketers, I go back, learn a little bit technology. Don't be afraid of it. Be the one who's able to go to your IT department and say, hey, I heard that our CMS is releasing, in the next release is going to have X functionality. I think we could really use that. Are we in a position to adopt that? Understand what your upgrade path is. Know when those changes are coming. Understand what it takes to integrate. Is it an API? Is it that simple? But take the time to understand how your technology works. How many of you guys have a content people, again, because I assume that the IT guys in the room have knowledge of the roadmap. Understand their content technology stack roadmap. Know what's part of it. Know that there is one. All right. Pillars. So those are the tenets. When it comes to pillars, these are things we stand on. I want you guys to look at these next 4 statements and honestly ask yourself, can I answer yes to this? These are statements that you should be able to agree with. When you can agree and say, you know what, absolutely I can do that, that's when you know you're on the right track from a strategy perspective. So pillar number 1, don't get distracted by shiny objects. We all love shiny objects. Cars, jewelry, wet nose of a dog, we all love shiny objects. And that's where we start getting caught up from a technology perspective, is because we think, oh, we really want that. We need that. And that's what vendors want. Again, no diss against the vendors. That's what vendors want you to believe. They're like, they're putting their marketing out. They're doing a good job with their content because they have you believe that you need that up and to the right, that you need that AI, you need Watson, and you need Sensei. That without it, you will fail. But you need to take stock in reality. Where are you today? Are you actually able to, if you had that technology, if you had that kind of functionality, could you adopt it? Are you in a position to be able to make use of it and leverage it the way it's intended? And to do that, you need to have the processes, you need to have the skill sets. Go back to the tenets that we just discussed, right? It's about having a firm spot in reality today, understanding what your capabilities are, knowing the direction that you're heading, and understanding whether or not that shiny object is for you, and is now the right time to acquire that. And also talk to that IT person that you're now going to have, bi-weekly or monthly meetings with to understand what your technology has capability of. Because you know what? You might already have it in-house. That's why it's so important to understand what your stack is included. 5,000 logos, 3,500 of which are unique to choose from. Chances are you guys have probably twice, if not 3 times the amount of technology in your organization that impacts content that you're not even aware of. Get to know it, understand what it can offer, and then start plotting the path. Build that roadmap to the shiny object. Find your cheese. I love that book. Pillar number 2, as I mentioned, be present but look to the future. Don't ever think, I'm never going to get there. Have vision. Think about direction. But understand again where you are. Set the course forward to get to where you want to be in the future. When we talk about being in the presence and looking to the future, that means you need to understand not only your marketing organization and its goals and objectives, the customer experience goals and objectives of your organization, but also your organizational goals and objectives, and tying your progress and your plan into that. We are all here to support our organizations. We all want to contribute to success, right? That's the ultimate goal. If the company is successful, we're successful and vice versa. So make sure that you know where you are today, what the core capabilities are. How many of you guys here have done a skills audit within your teams? A few? Okay, that's good. Content audit? A few more. Channel audit? Technology audit. That's how you get in the present, those 4 things. Understand where you stand today in all of those factions. And then start plotting the course, again, on all 4 to the future. This isn't just about technology. When we talk about technology strategy, it involves so much more than just the technology. It's the people, right? It's the platforms. It's the training. It's the strategy. It's all of those pieces combined and pulled together. Number 3, measure twice, then act. So it's measure twice, then cut once, but you don't really cut things. I guess you cut data. But again, analytics. Show of hands again. How many of you guys feel really confident that you are using the data that you have at your disposal well? Great. That's awesome. But most of us don't, right? Most of us are still struggling. Big data, it was all about big data, and we have to get our hands around all of this data, and oh my God, all this data. And really, you have to know what you're going to measure and why you're measuring it and who's going to act on that measurement. There's no point taking stock in something if you're not going to do anything about it, if you don't know why you're looking at it and what it means. So again, going back to looking at where you are in present, if you're not measuring things, start, but know why you're doing it. Create a baseline. It is never too late. I actually had a client said, oh yeah, well, you know what, we've been doing this so long and we never really measured it, so there's no point in doing it now. There is a point. There's always a start. There's always a place to start. So take stock in what you have. Look at the data you collect. Understand where your data is coming from. Again, part of the strategy is tying that data together, right? So what's parent data, what's child data, what information is going to places and what information is coming from places. And then start measuring it. Start looking at it. How many of you guys are asked to calculate an ROI on things? You guys, how many of you guys can do that with confidence? Yeah. I'm a big fan of KPIs. I think key performance indicators are way better when it comes to measuring things. ROI, there's always another way to slice and dice and add that number, that dollar to something else, other contributing factors. A lot of organizations struggle with attribution. You know, if there's 5 emails that go out in a campaign, how do you allocate, was it the first email? Was it the third email? Was it the first and fourth email? So understand what you're measuring and why you're measuring it. And if somebody asks you to measure it, don't be afraid to say, okay, that's great, we can absolutely do that, but why? What are you going to do with it? And there has to be ownership of it. Pillar number 4. And I have to disclose here, so I'm a huge hockey fan. Wanted to get to the Knights game last night, but didn't get there. I heard it was a good game. And typically I have a picture of the women's Canadian Olympic hockey team up here. If you guys haven't figured out, I'm Canadian. I don't know if I've said out or about but now you know. And then I was putting the picture in, and then I went, oh, you guys just kicked our butts. Yeah, I think I'll go with the skating team instead because we got gold. So hence why. And congratulations. It's not going to happen again. But like I said, I'm a huge, huge advocate of team. I think team makes all of the difference. Technology, facilitator, absolutely a contributor. Leadership, again, same thing. But the team that works together can accomplish so much, and the right skills. And to do that, you have to share the strategy. Again, Robert and I get the privilege of working with a lot of organizations and helping them build their strategy. And, often we ask, do you have a strategy? And they'll say yes. It's like, great. And who's seen that strategy? And there's crickets, right? Because they think sometimes strategy is this super secret document that nobody should have, right? It's all about the managers and the directors. But you need to share the strategy. So whether it's a content strategy or technology strategy, it needs to be shared. And to organize the right team, you have to go back to the tenets and the pillars that we've already talked about. So from a technology skill set perspective, what do they need to know? It's not just about learning the user interface. It's not just about understanding how to send a campaign or how to, post a blog post, but it's understanding how the content works within those domains, within the technologies, how it's transferred, where it sits. How many of you guys here have started to talk about or hear about single-page applications, SPAs? One. Wow. Everybody seems to be talking about it, to the point about getting phone calls about, do you have some information on that? SPAs, right now I have a stock email that I send back to people, which I'm going to start putting in a Google Doc and start building a book. It was great advice. But it's important to understand from a team perspective and a skill perspective what skills need to be a part of your team. So again, IT, social, email. It goes beyond that. We get technology dropped in our laps constantly. Somebody makes the decision to buy the technology, and then all of a sudden at the next team meeting, you have a new piece of technology. Great. And you get here's a link to a video, an hour-long pre-recorded training video. Go. Now go make return on that investment. We just spent $500,000 on this technology. Make it work. Right? Email happened the same way, but now they're doing it with these big, huge pieces of technology, and we need to have the skills and the training. So again, I go back to the concept of audits. Do a skill set audit. Understand how comfortable. So don't only ask the questions about, what do you know? What do you know how to do? Ask them their comfort level. How comfortable are you doing this? How comfortable are you using this technology? What training is missing? What would you like to do? It's always amazing to find out that, somebody who's doing maybe an analytics role, something a little more technical, is actually super creative. And maybe you want to start including them on generating some of the tweets and things like that. Strategy comes into the hiring process as well. When you're looking to bring on new people to the team, when you have that privilege, when you get that rec for that new body that everybody's looking for, because right now there's 10 of you doing 14 people's jobs. Wouldn't it be great to understand the gaps on your team and what you need to know to fill, who you need to bring on to fill those gaps? And then again, I go back to the strategy. Make sure that you share that strategy. So now what? That's, giving you 9 pieces of information. Now what do? You need to pull all those pieces together. So show of hands people who have done a skills audit. I think there's only a couple. So skills audit, again, as I just talked about, is making sure that you understand the capabilities on your team, what's available to you. A content audit. Anybody who was in our workshop yesterday morning, we talked a lot about the content audit. That is going to enable you to understand where your content is, the value that it has, and how you can leverage it within your technology, and being able to pull that content together. Strategies. It's not just one strategy. There's a marketing strategy. There's a content strategy. Your company strategy. Align it to what your organization is looking to achieve. Technology doesn't run by itself. It's not just there, because somebody asked for it. It needs to support a business goal. So by understanding the business strategy, you're able to pull that into your overall technology strategy. And then plan and strategize. Take all of that information and start pulling it together. Start looking for where things touch and cross over. And then repeat. Start all over again. Strategies are never something that should be one and done. It's an evolution. It's something that continues to grow and needs to change. It needs to have a baseline, obviously, and it needs to last for at least a little while. But go back and revisit it. Find out, when you start talking about, oh, it would be really great if we add this new piece of technology. Go back to your strategy and find out if that's something that aligns with what you have planned to do. Or did you get caught up in the bright, shiny object? Did that sparkle come through and, oh, you really need that? The number of Amazon is the worst for that. How many of you guys go there looking for a specific thing and then you've got 4 things coming to your house, right? Technology vendors are great at that. They're telling you about stuff you never knew you needed, but all of a sudden you need. Rely on your strategy to direct what your technology buys are, and then move forward again. So content will continue to be king, no matter what, but it's distribution that is the queen and wears the pants. You need to understand, I know I love this, we think content very narrowly, sorry, that's a very hard word to say, in a very straight line and very restricted, right? We think about CMS, we think about digital asset management, but we need to think about the distribution model as well. We need to think about the outlets and the channels. We need to think about not just the electronic, but the traditional, the face-to-face, and all of those. Technology still plays a part in that. So think about your distribution model as well when you start looking at your content strategy. And thank you.